The financial fool who scammed the world, Charles Ponzi. I'm sure you've heard of the Ponzi scheme. Ever wondered how it got its name? Well, it was after perhaps one of the biggest and most famous con artists ever to live on the face of the earth. It's been decades since he was captured, yet people still remember his name. Today we will be talking about the financial fool who scammed the whole world. He goes by the name Charles Ponzi, and he was a genius with scamming other people and taking their money. So I'm sure you're wondering, how did he manage to do that? And how did he eventually get caught? Well, stick around to the end as we answer these questions and more, and delve into the intricacies surrounding Charles Ponzi. Without any further ado, let's begin. Let me start off his story with his upbringing. Charles Ponzi was born in the city of Lugo, Italy on the 3rd of March, 1882. That's right, this is a story dating back more than a century ago. He was born to Oreste and Imelda Ponzi, and while they belonged to a long heritage of a rich family, by the time Charles was born, they didn't have any of their wealth left and thus were poor. This lack of resources was the first motivation for Ponzi to start stealing. He showed signs of being a thief right from a young age when he started to steal from his family and friends. After being a known troublemaker in school and receiving average grades, Ponzi then pursued his education elsewhere. He studied at the Sapienza University in Rome when he was a young man, and to no one's surprise, he was not a great student. As a result, he didn't have the required grades, and Ponzi was consequently forced to depart after 4 years with no money and no degree. Basically, he had wasted the previous 4 years of his life. Seeing that he had no option left, he went in search of the American dream. He decided that this was the only route left open for him after hearing tales of other Italians who had fled to America to gain fame and money during this time in college. And that was pretty common back in those days, as America was emerging to be one of the biggest economies in the world, and people all over were flocking towards her. Well, at first, Ponzi learned English and he tried his hand at local odd jobs. He was doing whatever was available, but the problem was that he lacked the commitment required to handle a job. And this happens when you've been stealing all your life and don't know the value of earning money through hard work. He would often be kicked out for stealing, and sometimes he would just leave the job out of boredom and frustration. In his search for places of employment, he traveled to a lot of cities, and his adventures took him straight to Montreal, Canada, where he worked as a bank teller. This was finally a decent job, and it looked like Ponzi could fully manage to hold on to it for a longer period of time. Well, bad luck ensued and the bank went under, leaving Ponzi unemployed. Now, clearly frustrated with his repeated failures, Ponzi went back to his old ways and resorted to crime as a way to earn money for a living. But funnily enough, he even failed at that. His crimes led to a 3-year sentence for forgery in Quebec. Following his release, he started assisting in the smuggling of Italian immigrants into the country. After being captured in that endeavor, 2 further years in prison in Atlanta were served. As you can see, now his time was spent mostly behind bars. But where is this Ponzi scheme he's famous for? Well, hang in there, folks. We're almost there. It's one heck of a story. Alright, so where was I? Let's fast forward to the year 1919. Ponzi was now doing pretty well, to be honest, as he had somehow set up an import-export business that would help him make ends meet. Around this time, something important happened which literally changed Ponzi's future. It all started when a Spanish business sent Ponzi a letter asking for an advertising catalog. Now, this really wasn't anything unique, but things took a wild turn when Ponzi discovered an international reply coupon, or IRC for short, a form of vouchers used in many other nations in substitution for local postage stamps inside the envelope. He instantly understood the possibility of profit from buying IRCs in one nation and redeeming them in another, taking advantage of exchange rate disparities. You've got to give him credit where credit's due. It was a genius tactic. Pretty impressive for someone who didn't even finish college. This fraud, however, does not end there. Besides this, Ponzi had also stumbled upon the art of arbitrage. And you're probably wondering, what is arbitrage? It's the simultaneous asset acquisition and disposal in 2 different marketplaces. Small price variations enable a modest profit. In this example, buying IRCs from one price in Italy and exchanging them for more expensive postage stamps in the US would result in a sizable profit. While this was illegal, it was quite hard to keep track of them, and Ponzi made a decent amount of money selling these. The best part is that he wouldn't even have been caught if he had stuck to this illegal practice. But he got greedy and planned to start another crime. Yes, folks, you guessed it correctly. Now we're going to talk about his infamous Ponzi scheme. First of all, for those who don't know, let me tell you what exactly a Ponzi scheme is. It's a type of scam whereby the distribution of speedy returns to the initial investors from money contributed by following investors fosters a belief in the success of an inexistent system. As you can imagine, it's not easily detectable at first, as people do get back their money, but later you learn that you've been scammed. Keeping this scheme in mind, Ponzi established Securities Exchange Company, a business in which he offered a stock with a 50% interest promise after 90 days. Yes, I know it seems too good to be true, but apparently people during that time were sold to fraud. And despite there being suspicions regarding Ponzi's work, the scheme did work for a time. During the first 8 months of 1920, he made $15 million. Now, that might not seem like a crazy amount, but trust me, for that time, it was an insane amount of money. If we adjust for inflation, $15 million is roughly $220 million today. How crazy is that? So now we have to ask the question, how did he keep that scam alive, even when people were not getting their money back? Well, he did that by convincing investors that he had set up a sophisticated network of agents who would buy IRCs from him overseas so he could sell them for a healthy profit back home. Now, this might seem like a reasonable explanation, but it was a lie. In reality, just like any typical Ponzi scheme, he was repaying previous investors with new investments rather than a complex network of coupon purchases. Still, it amazes us how a person without even a college diploma managed to pull this off. Unfortunately for Charles, no crime can be pulled off forever, so it was gonna end one way or the other. And the beginning of that end started when the Boston Post started covering Ponzi's company. This resulted in unwanted publicity, especially the fact that the publication stated Ponzi's net worth at $8.5 million. The authorities took note and initially changed their conversion rates of those coupons, which were the supposed source of Ponzi's money. But this didn't stop there, as the Boston Post launched its own investigation, which resulted in people and the authorities taking note. In the end, Ponzi was found guilty and sentenced to 3.5 years in prison, not to mention the millions he had to give back to the people who he had been taking the money from. When he got parole, he was deported back to his home country of Italy, where he died a poor man. So, what do we learn from his story? Don't be greedy and never take the coward's way out of progressing in this world. There truly are no shortcuts, and you can only make it if you work hard enough. Scamming and cheating are never an option. So, that's all, folks. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, be sure to smash that like button. I think we've cleared everything there is to know about the story of Charles Ponzi, but if you're still confused, let us know in the comments down below. We value the feedback of our subscribers, so don't hesitate to drop a note. And lastly, subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. So, I'll see you in the next one.